Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Steven.
And I'm Clay.
And we are the Hills Maniacs. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the second highest grossing movie of all time, Avatar. Alright, so let's get into it. First of all, I thought the first time around when I saw the movie, I guess we saw it in theaters originally, right?
Probably. Yeah.
When I first saw it, I didn't quite understand it as much, and it's been, I guess it came out in 2012, so it's been 8 years since, well, now 9 years, I guess, since we saw it last, and that was the first time and only time I actually saw it. But seeing it this time and paying more attention to it and everything, I actually understood and I liked the movie more than I did the first time I saw it. I think it definitely deserves to be on the highest grossing because it was unique in its own way. It set up its own little world, and I guess now they have 4 other movies coming out as sequels to it to explore that world.
I don't know if they need to go there,
but yeah.
I think what James Cameron did with this movie really kind of showed what you can do with CGI and what the technology has become since,
especially for back then. I mean, this was the same year the first Avengers movie came out, and we saw the CGI in that and everything.
Right.
So I guess.
And I mean, now that this is owned by Disney because it was from 20th Century Fox. It's curious to see how Disney will take this in these sequels that were supposed to come out anyways, but I don't know if they'll be delayed now because of COVID. But do I think they need a sequel to this? No. The way they ended it, I'd be okay with just having one, just one Avatar movie. I did like it more the second time that I watched it, and there was a lot more stuff that like you said, that we can pay attention to when you rewatch a movie, and I think that's why we're doing this in the first place, is rewatching these movies so that we can catch certain things. And when I found out it was the highest grossing movie of all time before Endgame came out, I was like, seriously? Avatar? Of all movies, that was, Titanic was before that. And now Avatar, and I'm like, seriously, Avatar? And then I rewatched it. I'm like, well, I could see why, because it had a unique concept, and it was well directed, I think, by James Cameron. So I really enjoyed the movie.
And honestly, I don't feel like it did anything to jeopardize itself. It didn't try to, midway through the movie, to steer the plot in a different direction or anything. It stayed what it was through the whole movie. And a lot of unique stuff happened. I don't think we've ever seen a concept like this where a normal human is able to take over the body of a native to the planet they were. I get the humans.
It's called
went
Pandora.
To this, planet. They were looking for resources on this planet, and then they were able to sort of mind control some of the beings on the planet, and then explore the planet. While being able to breathe, while inhabiting these bodies and things like that. I don't think we've ever seen something like that before. And then, of course, by the end of the movie, now this guy is trying to fight for their tribe and everything else, or fight for their beings rather than humanity itself. So it's an interesting concept, and it definitely opens a door to something like this down the road, and the sequels, we said, and everything else. It's got an interesting world to it,
and it's one of those movies like Planet of the Apes, like you were saying, where it makes you actually hate people.
You want the humans.
We're supposed to root for the humans in these humans versus aliens things because we are of the human race. But then when you watch movies like this or Planet of the Apes, and you realize how big of scumbags people actually are sometimes, you're like, well, I don't care if the people win in this case. I want the Na'vi or whatever they were called, to win in this movie, and that's it's a different take, I guess, on.
It makes you look at things from a different perspective, the humans are just here to find resources and try and get things that are going to make them all kinds of money and stuff, steal this from this planet and things like that. And then you got these native creatures that are living here, you know, now you want to kind of see them survive, because it actually gives you more of a look into what they're doing, how they live their life.
When it follows the
their
people
culture,
that become them, you can see a lot more.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there are the normal beings, and then there's some of them that they managed to like clone their DNA or something so that they could use them as avatars, which is where the name of the movie comes from, to get themselves into these bodies and get in with this species and stuff. I mean, there's so many. It's a huge, massive world that they can now explore in the future movies and things, and the culture of these creatures and everything else. Especially now that if the humans were driven out, essentially, I mean, they were kind of at the end. I guess they were taken hostage, so now we're the aliens.
Either that or they were leaving
on their planet. So it's kind of like the end of Planet of the Apes almost, where the apes took over. So now the humans are stuck on this planet as slaves, sort of. So
and see, I like
kinds
this
of stuff for the future.
I like this take because like Planet of the Apes is Earth that gets overrun by apes, whereas this is we go to a different planet rather than something happening on Earth. You know, so it shows that like this is a foreign place to us. We don't understand the nature here. We don't understand the people or the creatures here. You know, and we let it pretty much control us, and then the greed that we feel because they have stuff that we can use, you know, and then
I feel like from a viewer standpoint, though, from like outside of the movie, like humanity outside of the movie, just watching this, we don't need to understand necessarily everything right away going on this planet. We just know there's these creatures, they jump on these, or there's these flying creatures like dragons, sort of, to what we would know as dragons, I guess they know as something else, and all these different creatures, sort of like this rhino thing running around. They have all kinds of different creatures that inhabit this planet and stuff that we don't need to understand as the viewers, but we still get invested in the characters. They still manage to like get us invested and explain things where it's not that confusing. It'd be like learning a new going to a new tribe somewhere on Earth, like, or learning a different culture and things like that. It's the same thing here. They slowly kind of teach us, like, these are the main characters now. Like, we're looking at it all of a sudden from a different perspective, like we said. And they get you invested in this group of these characters and things outside of the humans, and then the humans are now the villains of the movie all of a sudden, you know.
And it just goes to show you that, like, just because you want something doesn't mean it's right to take it. Like, you know, because the minerals or whatever they had on Pandora that didn't belong to the humans, they tried to take it, and they didn't stop to think how it would affect the nature or these, you know, the native creatures there that were fighting back against them because they knocked over the tree to get the minerals, but they, you know, this is their home. We're on their planet.
We're the aliens invading their planet and causing all this destruction.
And it goes to show that most of the time, most stuff, even in real life, most stuff that happens is caused by people. And, you know, and I think this was a good take on that. And James Cameron did a great job showing that like, people aren't always the good guys. You know, because there's always that one person that wants to use things for the wrong reasons. And doesn't care about how it affects others or the environment around him. So,
and they think peace comes through war and things like that. So, like, rather than trying to actually communicate with these beings and
work
something out through logic and things like that, or just learning their language and speaking to them through the avatars and everything else, they just decide that, oh, well, they won't move, so we'll move them.
Right.
And then that's how you get all this war and stuff in there. Aside from all that stuff, though, I think definitely, like, the visuals and everything in this movie, like we said, the CGI and stuff, it was actually pretty cool. I mean, this was a pretty CGI-heavy movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, like, floating islands and stuff. Even the avatars, like, they look like the characters. I don't know if the actors wore, like, makeup and stuff, or it was all just CGI on their skin and stuff, but like they do in most movies nowadays. But like the fact that they're these giant blue people and stuff, it was all interesting from a visual standpoint and stuff, and it's entertaining and it's fun to watch. Very colorful and vibrant environment.
And I guess
and
that's what you have to look for when deciding whether or not this movie deserves to be, number 2 on the top 10 highest grossing movies. But not just that. I mean, the casting even for this movie. Sam Worthington played the main character. Sigourney Weaver was in this. Zoe Saldana was in this. Stephen Lang was in it as the villain, and he did a great job in that role. There was numerous other people that did voices of characters, and it's that with the CGI and the directing. James Cameron's one of those people that can direct well based on who he's working with, and so he could change his style if he has to, depending on who he's working with. And we've seen that in a lot of his movies, and we'll be watching another one of his movies coming up, for Titanic. So we'll look forward to seeing how that goes. But I personally think after rewatching it that it does deserve to be here on the number 2 on the top 10 highest grossing films.
And the difference between like that and Avengers Endgame is that like Endgame was the culmination of 21 other films, where this one was creating a whole new world, its own world, kind of like what Star Wars was in the very beginning. It was meant to be a one-off, and now it like spawned this whole series.
Right.
That's what I think. Avatar will. I don't know if it'll go well in the second and third. I think the first one on its own was just, as a standalone movie, is a really good movie. I don't know if it needs a sequel really either, but I mean, if they are having sequels, it has been announced.
Right.
So things to look forward to in the sequels is like more of these culture. There's like a whole planet to explore essentially on this Pandora.
Right.
Lots of stuff. Like we could get a lot of lore and backstory on these creatures. However, wherever he wants to go with like directing and writing the sequels and everything else. Right. It's like it's got its own lore to it, and I could see this becoming a whole new franchise out of this. And it doesn't even need to connect to anything we've it's not like it's a superhero film.
Yeah.
It's not like Star Wars. I mean, it is like in space.
Yeah, but they don't base it off of like comic books or something. There's no, backstory to what it has to be based off
I don't think there was a source material. It was just like a fresh thing. It was written and directed by James Cameron, out of thin air basically. So there's nothing to compare it to. It was a standalone movie, and I think it was a really good one as well.
Yeah, that's what I said. When you rewatch something, you get a different look, or you notice things that you might not have noticed the first time, and that's why I like rewatching movies, from time to time, and see what I can pick up on that I might not have noticed the first time. And that's the thing about movies, is that you're not always going to notice, or at least a good movie, you're not going to notice everything right away. You're going to have to rewatch it to figure stuff out, and that's what makes a movie great. And Avatar did that.
And it is definitely worth rewatching again. Yes. If you have only ever seen it once and you like put it on the back burner and you never thought about watching that, like maybe go check it out again, because it was really good. It kept me entertained. It's not that hard to understand when you actually pay attention, like what's going. It didn't, like I said earlier, it didn't like throw the plot all over the place.
And
the plot
was
one
flop
steady
back and forth too much.
It was one steady flow. You understand it. This person is doing this. This thing is happening at this time. Whatever. Like it didn't go all over the place.
And the good part is, because there's a lot of movies when they try and throw like two different scenes, like these people are here and these people are here. It's hard to tell if this is happening now or if they're here. Whereas this one, because it's two different groups of people, you have the natives, the Na'vi, and the humans. It's easy to keep track of where they're at when this, when something's going on. Because if he's in his human form, then he's with the people, and if he's in his avatar, then he's with he's with them. So it's really good at keeping them separate You know?
And it was an interesting plot too. Like we said, it's never been. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this where somebody controls like a. I mean, maybe there was some with like machines or something, but never like this where you control like a native, like an actual being and things like that, and learn their ways and everything else. And you kind of feel for every character too. Like you feel the stress of like, I'm in this environment that I don't know. I'm living among these creatures and things like that I don't know. And he slowly learns this culture and everything else and their language and stuff like that. But you still feel that tension. And then you also kind of feel, I mean, there's some times where it's like maybe the humans are right. Like, are they right? It makes you kind of go all over the place. Like, do you think the people are right? The military and everything else going in here? It makes you feel for the characters that are suffering from this and things like that. So it gives you just the right amount of flow with character development and following the characters and feeling for them and everything else. Kind of like we're living as kind of like they're our avatar and we're experiencing this movie through them, sort of. That's what you want out of like characters in a movie and everything else. The story drives it home and things like that. That's what I enjoyed the most, and it has a lot of action in it too, in a couple scenes and stuff, like near the end and stuff. There's it picks up like every other movie, just like Avengers Endgame didn't have a lot of action at first, and then it picks up after that in the end and stuff, like with the epic battle scene.
Yeah.
So I could see this being like a really good franchise if it does well in the second movie and maybe the third and stuff like that. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest checking it out.
And if you have seen it, definitely rewatch it.
Go back and watch it again. I mean, it is a really good movie.
Yeah, and it's one that still holds up. Yeah, and it's been 9 years now since the movie came out, and it's still, you can rewatch it a few times and still, get that feeling that you got the first time you saw it, and that's what any good movie does. Allows you to still feel that emotion and still like hate the bad guy in this movie. Even though you know what's coming, you can still, feel that intensity and stuff.
Honestly, after having only seen it once, I feel like there was a lot I forgot about.
Right.
Like near the beginning of the movie, I was like, when did this? I don't even remember this happening and stuff. And then it picks up to the parts that I do remember. So, and now I do think it's a good movie. I dare say it might be better than Avengers Endgame, which is actually my favorite movie.
I mean, I wouldn't go there. It was a good movie, and it did deserve to be highest grossing movie up until Endgame. Now, the thing is, though, I personally think it should still be, because they had to re-release Endgame to get it to be highest grossing film. Whereas Avatar did it by itself in one release. So.
But if you're into unique stories and intriguing, like, visual effects and kind of action-packed movies and stuff like that, then this is definitely a movie for you. It's not too Star Wars-y or anything like that. It still has humans in it and stuff like that. It is a well-grounded movie, but it's also has a lot going for it in the future installments of this franchise that they're trying to build out of this. So I think it's worth checking out once or twice, however many times you want to watch it. But there you go, guys. That was our thoughts on Avatar. Let us know what you think of the movie, if you've seen it, down in the comments section. And if you have seen it, be sure to let someone else know in the comments what you liked about it, and try and strive them to watch it as well. Because it was a good movie and it is worth watching.
Yes, and stay tuned for our next video where we review the Titanic,
the third highest
grossing film.
We're looking forward to that one.
We thought Avatar was long at like 2.5 hours. This one's yay.
But stay safe out there, everybody, and take care.
Bye, guys.
Subscribe.